Okay, so this week the topic was recommended by one of our regulars, Steve, who suggested he's not here yet. Actually, should I give him a minute? Yeah, let me wait a second just to see if he jumps on. He didn't say definitely that he would be here, but I'll give it another minute just in case. But yeah, he chose mentoring as the topic, and I'm going to combine it with mentoring and coaching. Somebody gave me a book that this sort of expert, and I don't know why, John, but when you wrote that, I read it with a like really sarcastic tone of voice. Oh yeah, let's all wait for Steve, shall we? Hey Richard and Mandy, welcome. Yeah, so he's kind of like an expert in mentoring and coaching, and he says that like depending on who you talk to, they'll describe mentoring in one particular way, and you know, people who are into coaching and making a stand for coaching will describe coaching in exactly the same way as the people making a stand for mentoring do. We're not political like that, are we? We don't care. We're putting them together because they're just useful things that you can do for other people and ultimately for yourself. All right, that was 3 minutes, so we're going to move. We're going to press on. Stephen, he may watch it on catch up afterwards. John says he best be quick, Doctor Who's on. Anna's like, where's Steve? All right, we're going to crack on, but, you know, hopefully he'll join, and if not, he'll watch it on catch up. Okay, so in this, I'm going to be speaking a little bit from the perspective of the mentorer, the mentor, and also from the mentee, because like for everyone who comes onto these conversations, you're both in a position where you might want a mentor, but you're also in a position where you might be able to be one for somebody. So I don't want to distinguish and say this is only a conversation for people that want to be mentors or who are looking for one. This is just about the whole realm of it. Who you would need to be one, what you should be looking for if you're looking for one, and what you should be looking to get out of it, right? So this trippy life was that. Okay, so the first question is why be a mentor? And I think the thing that, hey Steve, yeah, okay, so I've literally just started, and I'm just saying basically that I'm going to be talking from the perspective of people who want mentors, but also people who want to be mentors, okay? So like, I'm just talking about the whole realm of mentorship. So I think one of the reasons why one would want to be one is the first thing that came up for me was not about how you're helping other people. Actually, it was about getting your attention off yourself, because I really stand by this idea that when you're doing something for other people, if it's an authentic, honest way, you are benefiting yourself. You're taking your attention off that mental noise that is constantly going in your mind, that's kind of can be a little bit debilitating or a bit sort of, you know, get in the way of living a full life, as it were. Hey Nick, and it gets your attention onto other people, and I really do believe when your attention is on other people, as in like supporting them, helping them, and contributing to other people, you get taken care of in the process of it. I think we spoke about this last week in terms of the power, the conversation around power, whereby, you know, people who are here for a bigger purpose that is about more than just themselves, somehow people around them see what they're up to, and the universe organizes it so that they're taken care of. So I think that getting your attention off yourself is an excellent personal reason to be a mentor for somebody. But then beyond that, obviously, it's about how you can be of service to somebody else, and I believe that is what real mentorship is. Hello, Amber, welcome. So mentorship is like really a way of giving back. You know, most likely if you are in a position to be a mentor, you've got a certain way within your chosen profession or your field, or you have acquired a particular level of wisdom in an area that you are in a position to impart it to others. So it's a way of giving back, because in a way it almost feels like if you've got all that knowledge, all that wisdom, what is the point of holding on to it? Like, what... How much can it benefit the world if you're just holding on to it? Like, to me, as I was writing my notes, it really felt like knowledge, particularly wisdom, needs to be a flow. There needs to be this sense of it's coming into you from maybe someone who is almost like mentoring you, and coming out of you to people that are coming up, each one to teach one. You know what I mean? Like keep it like a circular flowing experience, rather than just Good. I've got information. I'm not sharing it with anybody else. Steve says, 100% agree. As this has been my experience this past week, I found such joy in helping people and also brought tremendous mental clarity and peace to me. Yeah, like, I mean, I'm going to come to this later, but I really do think that, you know, my attitude going into looking at mentoring was all about, I as the mentor, I'm giving something to the mentee, but actually, a real mentor, I think, is a space of openness whereby the mentoring contributes to them. The mentoring makes a difference to them as well. Do you know what I mean? They're growing and learning from it as well. I think that's a good mentor. Lazy I Zero, Ian, and Shlo. Hello, Shlo. Has joined the conversation. Okay. So we're talking about mentorship. So it's a way of giving back. It's also a way of making sense of the knowledge that you've acquired. Because sometimes I think a thing about a thing, and it's only when I perhaps have a conversation with somebody, or most likely share it with you guys, because this is the nature of the conversation. You know, this is the type of conversation where what I'm thinking about would come out, that I can really see if I really believe that, if I can make a stand for that, if I can own that thought. And so it's a very good way of teasing out what you really believe, because if you feel a certain level of responsibility. If you're going to impart some knowledge to somebody that's coming up, that's new in your field, you don't want to tell them the wrong thing. So it makes you make sense of what you've acquired and sort of galvanizes in your mind what you believe. Does that make sense? It's kind of a way of making sense of what you think you know, basically. Alistair, hello, Alistair 10. Thank you for your message, by the way, the other day. That was very, very sweet of you. And as I've already said, it also means that you can make use of the gifts that you have. As I said before, what's the point of holding on to them and not sharing them with anybody else? It seems like that's almost like a disservice to the world, that you're holding on to what you've acquired and not passing it on. And so on the flip side, why have a mentor? Why would you want someone who's mentoring or coaching you? Well, one of the big things I think that a mentor can bring to a conversation or contribute to their mentee is like a broader, a bigger, a wider, a higher perspective on what that person's going through. So as a mentee, you might be feeling lost or confused, or you know what you want but you don't know how to get there. There could be so many things going on, and I think it was Einstein that said basically that the thinking that gets you into a problem is not the same thinking that can get you out of it. And it's very difficult to change your mode of thinking by yourself. Often you need outside contribution to be able to make sense of something. You know, like what it's like when you're like in the middle of this like mental storm and you just can't see the wood for the trees, and you can feel, you get a sense of it being really circular. Anyways, your thinking is just going round and round and round. And then one friend or someone we know will say, do you know what's happening is you're doing this, or you're thinking like this, or why don't you try? Do you know what I mean? And because they're outside of it, they're not in the storm with you, they're able to make a contribution in a way that you wouldn't have previously seen. So that is what a mentor can do on an ongoing long-term basis, is continue to have that bigger, higher perspective on your situation. It's also, it could be a way of learning from an industry pro. You might actually want like specific technical skills. It can bring order and structure to what you're doing. A lot of people have got a lot of great ideas, but they're scattered all over the place. They're doing a little bit of this, and then they're doing a little bit of that, and then they're getting pissed off. Cyclical, that's it. Yeah, they're getting pissed off that things aren't sort of like moving, and they can't understand why. Well, a mentor can help you get clarity on that and see the wood for the trees, as it were. Just like give you this opportunity to they'll take the aerial view for you and go, okay, here's what's going on. You've got too many plates spinning, or ask you the more fundamental questions. What's important to you? What do you want? Because you've gotten yourself into this doing mode and you're not thinking about being. What do I want? What do I want to produce? What's my why? And so a mentor can come in and give you that. And you may have this experience of feeling lost as well, but also you may just need someone to challenge and push you. Some people are what society would call lazy. I don't think it's lazy. I think it's just that they haven't found their why. They haven't like connected. They haven't like you know, join the circuit, as it were, of all the things that are important to them. Because I think sometimes when people talk about lazy people, like there's someone I know who can game from dusk till dawn, do you know what I mean, the Xbox or whatever it is, that could be deemed as lazy, but he is committed to something. So if one could find what is actually important to him that's productive, then he would use that. He would easily use that same energy that he's using for gaming for that other thing, but he just hasn't found the thing yet. And maybe a mentor could bring that to him. You know, a mentor would take that aerial view and say, look, you could work for a games company and you can play all the live long day, but at least then you're being productive on some level. That's just an example. Let me go back because there's been a lot of comments there. Alice says, by all means, it was a pleasure to speak at the uni. No worries, it was an honour to be there. Steve says, as a teacher, I learned more about a subject by having to teach it. Yeah, I bet. I can just imagine like how much, because you're having to like fact check yourself as well, just on even a basic like sharing of information level. So, and also I should imagine by teaching something, it starts to make the subject that you're talking about will start to make even more sense, like a deeper sense you'll get of it from the process of teaching. Burton 3869, welcome. Paul, hey, there's Tribute Life says, yes, we all need support sometimes. We do all need support sometimes, but not everybody goes out and gets it. I think people stay in the storm. I know I've definitely done this, of like stayed in the storm, not realizing that there is a way out, that either there's a way of getting help to get out, or that I could try something else and get out myself. But most likely, getting contribution from somebody else is a way of getting out. So I was on a you know, this landmark program, and one of the things that was said to me that I thought, or said in the course, which I thought was so useful, and I repeat it to other people, is talking is one of the best technologies. I like the fact that he just described it as a technology. Is one of the best technologies for for clearing that sort of mental storm that can build up in someone. So even if you're not speaking to a mentor, speaking to someone, it has to be the right type of speaking, but we'll come to that later. But speaking to someone can help to bring some clarity and some support. And Sense8 fan account, hello. And Carly, hey, you were here last week, right? Sense8 fan account. And Carly, hey Carly, Paul says, we need an accountability buddy sometimes. If you're only accountable to yourself for certain goals, you can talk yourself out of things. Yeah, accountability buddies are a really useful thing, because the moment that you're answerable to anything or anyone outside of yourself, it brings a level of responsibility that you wouldn't necessarily, that some people don't necessarily have for themselves. Like, I remember hearing one guy say, on this landmark course, and he's like, he has got great integrity as long as it involves other people. If he's responsible for delivering to other people, he is all over it. But he is constantly negotiating, or trying to negotiate himself with himself. Oh yeah, I'll have like the apple pie this week because I did run like 2 weeks ago, so kind of it's fair that I have the apple pie now, or whatever it is. I don't know why apple pie is on my mind. Sorry, I've planted that seed now of food that people are going to want. Anna says the 11 to 17-year-olds are often in a whirl with just themselves before having to deal with where they fit in society. It's very difficult being a young person. Like, I was at my university this week and I had a few conversations with people, and I was really surprised that the overwhelming theme, so it was their graduation, the overwhelming theme, not every conversation and not the whole of every conversation I had was about this, but the idea of that they felt lost came up so many times. Like, what do you do now? Almost like they've graduated, and you think, you know, because we're a bit further down the line, most of us, we think graduation, yay, you're free. But actually they were in this kind of like, now what? Which really sort of really touched me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, gosh, you're just realizing how hard it is to be a young person these days, or any time actually. Haley James, well, oh no, that's not right. Halium James. Alistair says it was gaming that got me into coding. There you go. Because then you found your path anyways. I don't need to say any more than that. That's brilliant. So Steve says, to go back, as a teacher, you have to go beyond the facts of a subject and dig down, because people ask you questions which require you to know more know the core foundations of the knowledge you're passing on. Absolutely. Because I used to wonder, how come you couldn't just read a bit in a book and then go off and teach that? And it's because your students need you to know more than what you just read. They need you to know the wealth and depth of that subject, because their questions could come from any direction. They might not be, their questions might not be about what's on the next page, you know, metaphorically speaking. Their questions might be bigger than you can cope with, because you haven't read, you know, and grasped the full depth and weight of the question. It's the why questions. Exactly. So you need a comprehensive knowledge of your field. I don't know why we're talking about this, but it's a valid point. I mean, it's about knowledge, isn't it? And wisdom, really. So those are some of the reasons why you might want a mentor, why you might want to be a mentor. So let's talk about what it is. Okay, so it can come in many forms. There's the corporate world has lots of different names for different types of mentoring. But let's just talk in very broad terms. So it can be guidance, it can be technical training, it can be about specific goals or project planning. So there might be some specific thing that you want to work on. It can be about career progression. So you might want to find, for example, a mentor who's in your field that can, you know, create introductions for you and specifically take steps to advance your career. They're all valid, and in fact your mentor and relationship could be a little bit of all of them or none of them, and something, you know, something completely different. Alistair says, I completely agree with you. You can't simply read something from the book and then teach it. Context matters. Absolutely. Oh, and the other thing, it could be, yeah, inspiration, I think, as well. Like, some people don't need to be taught anything as such. They just need to get their head out of a very mundane way of thinking and a more inspired way of thinking about their career or their path or whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. And I think, like, inspiration, actually, it might seem a little bit sort of nebulous, a bit like woo-woo, but actually I think that's probably one of the most important, because if you want people to do great things in the world, they've got to feel inspired as to why they would do it. There's got to be a motivation bigger than money or status. It's got to be about bigger ideas. Do you know what I mean? And so inspiration will have people move into that space more than the planning and the technical training and all that will. It's not vital, because it depends what the context of the mentoring relationship is, but I think it is important and will make a big difference. What isn't it? What isn't it? It's not telling people what to do. So you're not mentoring somebody if you're like, you know what you should do. And you know, in the domain of like advice that comes from people, that is, I believe, some of the worst advice that you can give. Like, it's like when somebody gives notes on a project, and I see this so many times, is like something's wrong with a script or something like that, and people will go, why don't you have the lead character do da 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 da, and then they run off with their idea, and they're like, yeah, and then you could da 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 da, and it's like, look, I get that there's a problem with the script. I get that you've seen that problem with the script, but don't tell me also how to fix it, because that's down to me. And it's the same with mentoring. You don't want to be like, what you need to do is get a job as a coder. You know, you could say, have you considered coding? You know, or have you looked at what jobs are available for people that really are interested in working in the the field of games industry? I'm trying to find the right word. That's mentoring. Is okay, so you said you're looking for a career that would allow you to work in the games industry. Have you thought of these? You know what I mean? That's mentoring. It's not about giving your opinion, unless specifically the mentee is saying, what is your opinion on ... It is not about you saying, well, you know, as far as I'm concerned, no actor should bother trying to work in LA because it's not worth, you know what I mean, or whatever it is. That's not mentoring. That's just you spouting and getting on your, well, soapbox or whatever. It's also not therapy. So if you start to get into, what's your relationship like with your mother? That's not mentoring. And you will feel both sides. If you're a mentee or you're a mentor, you will feel instinctively whether you're getting into a domain that is it's therapy. Mentoring can be therapeutic. There can be changes that come about because you've had a mentoring conversation or a coaching conversation, but that shouldn't be the purpose of it. It's not about, you know, helping you to reconcile the, you know, your relationship with your dad or something like that. There's Jay Warner. Hey, welcome. Yeah, recently I was having a conversation with my coach, and you know, we started talking about something to do with my mum, and I could feel that it was like, I don't even know if I want to spend the next hour talking about this, because actually me and my mum get on pretty well, and this isn't a big deal, and it's starting to feel like the domain of what a therapist should be talking about, not a coach. I want to talk about my career, and I don't think that this is relevant. And both of us were kind of struggling to find our words, and then the coach said, no, let's not go down this road. Let's talk about. And then I felt so much better, because it's like, I'm not here to deal with that stuff, even if it were a problem, unless it's actually getting in the way of my career. And even if it is, in which case that it still might be more appropriate that the coach or mentor says, go get therapy, or have you considered? Have you considered therapy? So it's not therapeutic, but can be. It's not therapy, but it can be therapeutic. So if you're gonna get into a relationship with somebody, either that someone has asked you to mentor them, or you're looking for a mentor, I think the most important thing is to set up your context, and that includes several things. So each relationship between a mentor and a mentee is going to be different, but you need to set up your parameters of what it is. So first of all, you need to decide what you want to get out of it. So like we were saying before, is it training? Is it introductions, career introductions? Is it development? Is it a project-based thing, so that when this project is finished, the mentoring finishes? Is it a time-based thing, so after 3 months or whatever it is, the mentoring is over? And what is the purpose of this? You know, where do you want to stand? And if you can, make it something tangible. You know, when we were talking about, you know, setting your 3-month goals, we were talking about, oh, this, you know, make it measurable. So I would like, Ryan, he's not here at the moment, but like he wanted to reduce his, he wanted to be able to run 6K in a faster time or whatever. So that's really tangible. He knew what the faster time was. He said, I want to take 4 minutes off my 6K time. So you want it to really be as specific as that. And you're like, I'm an artist. It can't be that, you know, I can't be put in a box like that. Well, yeah, you can. You can find a way, because the more you do that, the more it can be measurable, so that you can measure whether this relationship has been successful. Even if it might seem a bit like prescriptive to go, oh, I want this mentor to have introduced me to 6 producers by the end of our 6-month relationship. But if you go in with that agreement, then you can measure whether you were successful at the end. And the mentor might say, hey, listen, I only did 5. Do you want to carry on for 1 more month, and we'll see if we can find one other person? Obviously, this is something you would agree at the beginning. So you don't want to just spring it on them halfway through and go, listen, I decided that you should introduce me to 6 people, 6 producers, and you haven't. So do you know what I mean? Like, so you find a way of like making it, you got to have an agreement about this at the beginning. Carly says, correct regarding therapy, and that takes years of training. So going into the domain of therapy in a mentoring relationship can do more harm to for the client. Oh, and that's such a good point as well. That is a brilliant point, because you're not, you know, therapy or being a therapist or therapizing might look easy, but it ain't. It's like Carly says, it takes years of training. And I've had damage done to me by people who were not in a, you know, were trying to go down that road and didn't know what they were doing. And I sort of, yeah, anyways, so as the mentor, protect yourself by not going down that road. And as the mentee, you be responsible for yourself in putting your foot down and not bringing up things that should really be brought up in a therapy environment. So Lee and Tom has joined. Hey, what's up? So there's several agreements that you want to go into with your mentoring relationship. One is that you want to get what the purpose of this is. What's our end goal for this? And that's the things that we were talking about before. Is it training? Is it development? Blah blah blah. How are we going to execute this? So, and that's something you want to be in negotiation with the person that you're having the relationship with. Are we going to meet weekly? Is it going to be monthly? Are we going to meet weekly with a monthly group thing going on? Are we going to do this on Skype? Or are we going to meet in person? Are we going to meet in Skype week to week, and then on the third week we meet in person? Whatever it is, have an agreement about what that is at the beginning. This is, you're setting the context for how this thing is gonna work. One of your agreements will be about timekeeping. Both sides of the coin, both the mentee and mentor, need to take the commitment to meet at a particular time seriously, because as much the content and the context are equally important to the wisdom that will be imparted. If you have a very very relaxed, very loose relationship around time, one's not turning up one time, one's giving excuses or whatever, it will not be as powerful as if you say at 7 o'clock on the dot or whatever it is, we will speak. And if one is, and both sides have to be accountable for themselves. I think it's possible for the mentors to also get into this like favor mentality, like I'm doing them a favor, so if I'm late then da 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 da. And I'm not saying like things can't change or things get in the way, but a mentor has to treat that time commitment as importantly and seriously as the mentee. Like, this is now, you've committed to doing this, you're now responsible for somebody, so you have to be there. No excuses, no fucking around and like, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. Because that is not the size of person that a mentee needs. They're now relying on you. So you have to show up. And it's not like there's no way that if you can't make something that you failed. But when you change your commitments or whatever, or if something comes up, then you change the arrangements with integrity. You give them enough time and you tell them what time you will be able to meet or whatever, and you send your apologies, obviously. You don't do it like 10 minutes before you're supposed to meet or something. So I think that's, a lot of this will be, a lot of people would focus on what the mentee is supposed to bring about timekeeping, but I would say that the mentor has to be quite a big person to be able to own that time commitment and really do it in a way that's like just dripping with integrity, because you got to be the goal in terms of a being. You got to be the goal for what that mentee should be aiming for. Not just about the wisdom that you impart, but it's about who you're being as a goal as well. Hey Ryan, we were just talking about you and your running. Where are we now? Alistair says, I had similar conversations when I joined the Masons. Okay. Oh, all the things we had to negotiate so I can progress. Yeah, exactly. Same sort of thing. Set your ground rules right up top and then everybody knows where they stand. Hey Ian, hey Ryan, hey Sly. And Steve says, can you talk about paying someone to mentor you versus not paying someone? I'm going to say that paying someone to mentor you is probably... I want to say that that's not mentoring. That's my feeling. It's probably coaching, I would say. I don't necessarily think it changes all that much, except that from the mentor's perspective, I think that the value that can come from the relationship could change. Could be not as fulfilling as if you were doing it altruistically. That's what I would say. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but I would not want to be paid to do it. Like I want to start to get involved with my own university to start mentoring students there. I don't want that to be a financial arrangement. I want to do it because I want them to have I want to be a resource for them. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it as such, but to me it doesn't feel like... I think the domain that I'm talking about doesn't involve money. That's really all I can say about it. So I can't say that it's right or wrong or that it's good or bad or anything like that. I just think it's I think that what we are talking about here is a different domain. That's all. I'm gonna leave it at that, I think. Hella Swanky, hello. So so we're talking about these agreements, timekeeping, and obviously communication. If details need to change, no problem, Steve. I hope that helps in some way. I'd be interested to hear what you think of that, or as to why you brought that up. And just like in the way that you communicate, have respect for each other. Confidentiality obviously is something that is a given, but you need to state it, I think, when you create this relationship. And I think it's more something for the mentor to create, because obviously you're less likely to be sharing very, very personal things. It's the mentee that's going to be sharing, so you want to let them know, by the way, what is generated or what is said is, you know, stays between us. And I think that's really important, because what you're creating is a space. That space is safe so that they can say whatever they need to. That space is inspiring. It's like it's not got judgment in it. So you need to say up top, by the way, this is a safe space. You can speak as you need to. Obviously, if they confess to a murder, all bets are off. But like, you know what I'm saying. You need to, in some way, Gwyneth, hey, you need to, in some way, as the mentor, get permission from that person to make a contribution to them. So that, I don't know how you would say that. Everyone's going to probably say it in a different way, but it's going to look something like, occasionally we're going to have conversations that are kind of challenging, and I'm going to push you a little bit sometimes. Are you okay with that? And get their permission, get them to say yes, so that when you do that and they are challenged and they'll have forgotten that part of the conversation, do you remember when we first made our agreements? You remember that I said I would push you and you said you were fine with that? Well, I'm pushing you now. And they can't say anything. And ultimately, that's, you know, as a mentee, that's what you're going to want. You're going to want challenge. You're going to want to be pushed, and you're going to want to change, because that's why you go into this relationship. In some way, you want some sort of change. It might be on a very small level, or it might be on a big level, but you do want change. So you gotta as the mentor get that permission to contribute, because again, you know, going back to this domain of advice, you know, that you get unsolicited advice, which doesn't necessarily mean just because it's unsolicited it's useless, or it doesn't have a value. But a lot of people don't check in with the person that they're contributing to make sure that they have permission to proceed. So some people will say some really gnarly things, you know what I mean? Like they'll really push their luck with the person who's in something, in terms of the advice or the things that they're saying to them, because they're not making sure, are they cool with this? Do I have permission to go this far? No, I don't, but then they continue anyways, you know? So make sure you get permission from the person to be able to make the contribution that you need to, that sometimes will be quite strong and challenging to them. I brought it up because of our DMs and my struggle to find the wood for the trees, but not in a position to pay for professional guidance. Well, let's DM about that, Steve, because what I was basically saying to you is there is another possibility for another session pro bono if you want it. That's what I was basically telling you. Amber says, sorry, had to call my ride to the airport. No problem. And Ida has joined. Hi. So another part of the agreement, and Stephen Snap has joined. Another part, oh, Stephen, hello. Another part of the agreement is openness on both sides. So as a mentee, what is the purpose of you going into this mentoring relationship if you're not open to those contributions that you've given permission for, right? So you have to be in a place of openness, and even if it's excruciating, push through that and be able to listen to what is, you know, what is being said to you, so that this change that you said you wanted, this goal that you said you want to achieve, it is possible. And from the mentor's side of things, I believe the mentor has to be in the state of mind where I'm going to learn from this. Now, you might not learn in terms of your given field. You might learn a little something about your own self. In terms of, like, say, for example, you might learn, wow, I'm a really judgmental person sometimes. Or, wow, I'm just super impatient. Or, do you know what I mean? So, like, if you stay open to the fact that you might be transformed by this relationship, then the flow of energy and learning will be so much more than if you come at it from some sort of know-it-all position. You're not a know-it-all. Nobody knows everything. And if you can, as a mentor, learn, then your learning or your openness to learn will be even bigger inspiration to the person that you're coaching. And then you know, in this opening sort of conversation, just any other ground rules that you feel are appropriate to the relationship that you're trying to create with somebody. So there might be some other things off the top of my head, I can't think what they would be, but like there might be some other things that you're like, and I also want to add this in, you know, and this is going to be part of our arrangement, because these parameters, this is the context in which this relationship will exist. Every relationship has a context. You know, like a marriage has a context. We've signed a contract. We're in agreement now about something. So every relationship, so you're creating a sort of a verbal, you may write it down, who knows? You know, you are creating a contract between the two of you about how this thing is going to last. How this thing is going to work, how long it's going to last, what it's going to look like, what the goals are, what the rules are, you know. So yeah. So the skills required of a mentor, and I suppose this is what you're looking for in a mentor, but it's also what you're looking to create as a mentor. Bowintha, I think, has joined. Hello. So one of them is listening. The biggest one, I think, is listening, actually, because you want to listen to, and this is, you know, particularly important up top at the start of the relationship, but actually all the way through, is taking in the whole of who somebody is when you first start the relationship with them. It's like they're in something, and on the surface of it, it might look like one thing, but as the mentor, you want to just drill down and make sure you really get what's going on with them. Because you know what it's like. Sometimes you have a conversation with somebody and the top level of what they're saying looks like one thing, but you ask them a few pertinent questions and you will find actually the issue is something completely different. And if you don't take the time to listen with your whole being, listen to who they are being, not just what they're saying, but who they are being, and find out what's important to them, and find out where they want to go to, and find out why they want to get there. If you listen to all of that, then you can make a different order of contribution that is not superficial, that's really deep, and will possibly reorientate their lives in a much more profound way. Active listening, Sly says. I didn't know that was the word for it, but cool. Here to be educated. Steve says, I see marriage as more of a covenant than a contract. No need to expand that here. I don't know what a covenant is. I only know about it because of Raiders of the Lost Ark. But you can explain that to me afterwards. Yeah. So you're listening with your whole being. Sly has described it as active listening. I love the sound of that. But it's just really getting where somebody is, and also very important, critical, to put your own prejudices aside, so that, you know, you're not listening with judgment to what that person is. Say, for example, this person who's gaming every day, our fictitious mentee who's constantly gaming. If you come at the mentoring with a, God, I know someone that was like that, and they were absolutely, you can't teach these people. You know, if you come with that listening, then what use are you going to be to that person? So you have to really you have to get yourself out of the way, basically. Get yourself out of the way so that you can be of service to that person, because most people do want to achieve something in their lives, but sometimes they feel like they've been let down by society or family or schools. Sometimes they feel lost, so they don't bother trying. Sometimes they feel like, what's the point? There's so many things that can be going on, so you need to listen for all of those things. Listen to what's beyond it. You know, I had a singing coach who used to describe it as the thing beneath the thing beneath the thing. So there's the thing that is, you know, maybe the superficial mask that we all have, and then below that is a thing that we might be willing to share, but below that is the fundamental truth of who somebody is. And if you can get to the thing beneath the thing beneath the thing, then you can really make a contribution to somebody. But how to get there? You have to listen completely, wholly, actively. Son of a Gav, hey, what's up? You got to be open. I mean, you know, we've covered that part already, as a mentor, being open and available to whatever space and place your mentee is in, and get what they want. What do they need? What are they asking you for? And there might be things that you think they need, but they don't want. So you can't necessarily force that on them. You can steer them, and that's the balancing act with a mentor, is trying to steer them without forcing your idea of where they should be onto them, but pulling them out of their comfort zone a little bit too. So it's a dance. And I use that term a lot because a lot of times these things aren't clear cut. You got to dance with people, but you got to make sure that they're willing to learn some of the steps for the actual dance, rather than just making it up. Do you know what I mean? Like they can't just be freestyling, because otherwise what's the point of you being there? I'm thinking, because I watched Strictly last night, so I feel like the ballroom dancing is analogous, because there are rules. They just are rules, and you want to contain your dancer within the rules, but you don't want them to feel like if you don't get these dance steps right that you've done it wrong. So there's an openness. You've got to work with them, give them what they need, but also a little bit of what they want, and just keep working with them. George, hey, and Amber says, I've been wanting to find a mentor for a long while yet, but I never knew exactly what to ask about because I always felt it was abrupt to ask for things like meeting people or things like that. So thanks for clarifying. Yeah, I mean, I think if you are asking someone to be a mentor, you just got to ask. I mean, I don't think it's unusual for people to be asked to do that. So I don't think people will be like, a mentor? Hang on, let me get my Webster dictionary out. I mean, I don't even know what that is. You know, it won't be weird, but it's like you just have to find what works with them. You got to, you know, that gracious, pushy approach that, you know, actors and, you know, fledgling creatives have to have. You got to go in with that sort of attitude. Be prepared for a no. Be clear about what you need. Make it okay for them to say no. You know, all that sort of good stuff. And just, you know, be willing to ask a few people before you find the person who's right. And also, you know, and I was reading this book about mentoring earlier. He said, like, you could have several mentors on the go. So it's not like you have your one mentor and that's it. You know, you could have a mentor for your acting, mentor for your writing, a mentor for your, you know, for all these different things that you're doing, for your producing and directing. There's no rules. There's no rules in that respect. It's a little bit, yeah, it's a bit kind of Wild West. Active listening is a technique used in counselling that requires the listener to fully concentrate, understand, respond, and remember what is being said. That, I mean, basically makes sense. Kaj Miko has joined, and Steve says, being asked to mentor someone is a great sign of respect. I mean, that's a good point, because people might just feel totally and utterly flattered, maybe shocked even, that, so why is someone even thinking of me in that way? Do you know what I mean? So don't go in with the attitude that you're taking the mick with them, sorry, quaint British term, that you're taking advantage of them in any way, or you're asking for something that's above and beyond. They may be delighted to be to have the opportunity to give back. So, a lot to get through. Okay, so recreation is, and I think this goes along with what Sly is saying about active listening. Recreation is a term that I learned again from Landmark, and it was basically that when you're listening to somebody, that you repeat back to them, and so that they get that they understand that you got what they were saying. So for example, someone's saying, you know, I spend like all my time gaming, I just can't find the motivation to really get onto my path. I just really want to find what it is I'm meant to be doing. So you say, okay, so what I get is that at the moment you're spending a lot of time gaming, but that's not ultimately what you want. You do feel like there is a path for you, but you're just struggling to find out what it is. And when a person hears themselves, could be mirroring, that could be a term for it as well. I've never heard that, but again, here to learn, you know. So when someone hears themselves reflected back like that and feels gotten, it just makes such a difference. So that's that's the next stage of the listening process, is to make sure, and you know, doing what Sly said, of making sure that you're remembering everything that was said, that you're concentrating fully and responding appropriately. That's an important part of the thing. You know, you can't just be listening with your ears, you've got to be listening with your whole being. Right? And then the quality of your contribution, that's the next stage. So listening, recreating, and then contribution. So again, like we said, it's not about advice. It's not about telling people what to do, unless a mentee specifically says, this has happened, what do I do? But most of the time, it's about look, what I wrote down is teach a man to fish. So you're not fishing for them. You're not just going to spoon feed them with the information they need. You're going to help them to figure things out for themselves, make discoveries for themselves, because people will remember things and learn things so much easier, better, deeper, if they made the discoveries for themselves rather than if they are just spoon-fed. You know, any teacher will know this in terms of like teaching school children, you know. So teach a man to fish. Offer encouragement from time to time, because some mentors, I don't know, maybe they want to be a bit brutal with their charge, but you need encouragement as well. You need to be like, dude, well done. What an achievement. We set this goal and you nailed it. So recognize their achievements. When it comes to correction, don't overload with correction. My acting coach used to say that when he would give notes, people would put up a scene, work with a scene partner, and then he would give notes afterwards. He wouldn't like tell them everything that wasn't working with the scene. He would just tell them a little bit each week. And you know, often probably people figured stuff out before he got to say it the following week anyways. But if you go, well, first of all this, then this, then this, then this, like what's going to happen? The person's going to feel like, what's the point? I'm just a screw up. You know, so encouragement and measured criticism, you know, so that they feel like they are progressing. You're in a fortunate position of having a full overview of where that person's journey, because probably you've done it. So give them a break and just like, you know, drip feed the criticism so that they feel like it is achievable where they're trying to get to. Also correct with humility. I'm just going to say this phrase: fix a queen's crown without telling the world it was crooked. I saw a meme of that on Instagram, and I think that's basically it. It's like, don't humiliate people because they've made a mistake. And you know, most of the time you have the information that you have or the wisdom that you have is because you fucked up at some point. You know, especially like in the domain of relationships, when I give people, if people ask for my advice, I'm probably not the best person to ask anyways, but like if people ask my advice, I have to say it with humility, because the only reason I have these insights is because of everything that I've done wrong or has gone wrong in relationships in the past. Well, surely the same applies to career advice as well. Probably the only reason y'all know what you're talking about is because you've screwed up at some point. So correct with humility. And also to be sensitive to where they're at, because like being a mentee is a very vulnerable position, because you're in the midst of change. Change is happening and you don't know which way it's going to go, and you're not sure you're going to achieve this. You're not sure it's going to work out. So as the mentor, one thing that you can do is just be kind to them when they need kindness. Sometimes they will need to be pushed, but sometimes they will need kindness, and you have to be really attuned to where they're at to know which is appropriate. Because I've been in mentoring situations where I just say, I don't need this right now. You know what I mean? I don't need how hard you're being on me. And I've ended the relationship, you know, because I can take being pushed, you know, but there's times when I need you to get that I'm feeling overwhelmed and this is too much for me. So you really have to be very sensitive to where a mentee is. Don't go soft on them, but don't be so hard that you just destroy them, you know what I mean? And they don't want to spend time with you or speak with you, or that they're scared of you. Don't create that, for the love of God. That is not doing anybody any favours. Gwyneth, isn't it kind of like parenting? Yeah, kind of, in a way. Yeah, it is, but I mean, it's the idealized version of parenting, because I think because the mentoring conversations happen so few and far between compared to how regularly you have to correct a child. Like you're probably better at being more patient. You got a bit more space to be patient. I'm not saying all parents are impatient, but like I can only imagine that sometimes you're just going to lose your shit and you haven't got time to like talk a child through every single sort of aspect of what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? You just got to tell them, just stop it. Be mindful of pushing your own agenda. Like obviously sometimes sometimes a mentor is probably gonna have some drum to bang about something. Avoid doing that, obviously, because like for example, I've used LA as an example. It's like sometimes I've met quite a few people who'd say to actors not to go to LA, how difficult it is to get visas and all that, and it's like, it's not that those things might not be true, but like you found it difficult, you had some hard times, you haven't made it yet, so but don't assume that that's what's going to happen for other people. Somebody might just fall might have the luck of like literally like the equivalent of parachuting out of a plane and landing in a pair of trousers. That might be how easily they get their visa and their first job in America. So don't put your prejudices onto somebody else's experience. And be willing to clean up any mess that you might make as a mentor, because it is very easy to say the wrong thing. It's not going to be perfect. Like your coaching is not always going to be perfect. You're going to upset somebody sometimes. So be willing to be the bigger person and put things right. That's all I'll say about that, because it's like, you know, I don't want to anticipate what could go wrong, because let's imagine that it's going to go right. Your interesting mental image. Why did the guy come out of a plane without trousers? That sounds like the start of a joke. um, It's a good point. I've never thought of that. I have used that analogy before as well. So you're like the lighthouse for these people. You're keeping them off the rocks. So be that guy. You know what I mean? You're making a stand for a higher version of who they are. That's one of the other skills of like you as the mentor, is to make a stand for a version of themselves that doesn't currently exist. When they start the process to when they end the process, it's a different person. If you've done your job right, it's a different person. And be adaptable, you know, be willing to change the plan, change the approach, depending on where the mentee ends up, depends on, you know, the different things that they might want. The goal might change. Again, you got to dance with it, because there's some people that are a bit sneaky and they change the goal because they're being confronted, but instead of dealing with the confrontation that's coming up with the process, they'll go, oh no, what happened is I've realized that I don't need to. So you got to be very wily. Again, you got to listen. Is that true? The reasoning and the rationale of like why they're wanting to change the goal, or is it a little bit of trying to swerve really what this whole process is about? What have they, you know, there's something that they're supposed to confront and they haven't yet. So you've got to dance with it, be listening to that all the time, and but be willing to adapt. But the most important thing I would say in the whole thing is, as a mentor, as a mentee as well, is to come to this process with an open heart. Mentors, I believe, should come at this process with as though they are a where did I describe it? A knowledgeable beginner. That's it. That you're a knowledgeable beginner. So don't come at it with a I know everything and this person's going to learn from me. I'll show them the ropes. It's just like you're partnering them, because they've had the sort of grace and humility to put themselves in your hands a little bit and trust them. Hey Rose, hey. So honor that by also coming with an innocent wonder to the relationship as well. The mentee should be the person driving the relationship, not the mentor. If you're having to, you know, make sure that they get on the phone or the Skype at the right time, if you're the one that's like, okay, so this is what you're going to do next, the dynamic of the relationship is off. The mentee should be the one that's driving it, because they're the ones that are going to benefit ultimately at the end of the day. The mentor shouldn't obviously have this attitude like I'm doing that person a favor. And the mentee shouldn't have a sense of entitlement, because, you know, you got to remember how much the mentor is probably, their time is very in demand and their hourly rate is very high, and they're giving their time to you for free. Equally, the mentee shouldn't be thinking that they're owed it in any way. Or I'm doing my best here. I'm sorry I'm late, but I'm just doing my best. You know what I mean? Like, both sides come at it with humility, and it's got to be authentic. Like, if you're from a mentor's perspective, if you're coaching somebody and it's inauthentic to do that, it is not going to work. Very briefly, I'll tell you, I started doing volunteering for the Samaritans, but I learned very quickly that it's not for me, because I couldn't make the kind of contribution that I thought I would be able to. And so I ended up leaving, and I did it. I even went to join them because I thought it was the right thing to do, but it was an inauthentic way of me making a contribution. And so it was the right thing that I stopped volunteering for them. You got to find what's right for you. Don't do it because you think it looks good, or gonna get you your wings. Do it because you are called to do it, basically. Hey Andy, and Kaj Miko says, as when I teach judo for kids, I need to be mentor, coach and parent. Yeah, I bet. I mean, especially as they're young, there's probably quite a lot of responsibility there. Okay, so, Alice says, I agree with you. Several people I go to the temple with so that I earned this is one of their pet peeves. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, you don't want people to... I think you can suss when somebody's up to that. Do you know what I mean? Like, look how good I am. I think people... Yeah, anyways, let's not go down that road. An open heart will get you so much... Even if you feel like, as a mentor, you don't know as much as you think you need to, an open heart will get you so much further down the road in terms of making a contribution to somebody than having all the knowledge in the world and being an asshole, being a know-it-all asshole. So just be open-hearted and you will win at this thing. And you know, really like consider this thing about the idea of getting attention off yourself. That is why you can be of benefit to somebody else, is because you're going to benefit too. And it's not, I know that that's not the reason that you're doing it. You're doing it because you want to give back. But wow, isn't that great that you can get something from it too? Sly says, true, there is always the risk of the mentor using it as a bragging or a do as I do opportunity. Each mentee in their respective situations is different. And you know what, as well, as a mentee, you can give people, you can let it slide if it happens a couple of times. Like sometimes, you know, I think my coach won't mind saying, sometimes he tells me stories about his life and they go on a bit, like they're a bit longer than I would like them to be. But you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, I'm just like, let me try and stay open to what he's saying, because there might be in there some nuggets that are actually of use to me. So you got to give people a bit of room to be human beings. You know, sometimes we do get a bit, you know, sort of braggy or, you know, feeling ourselves a bit. But ultimately, you know, you want somebody that can get themselves out of the way. Steve says, open heart and gratitude when someone steps up for you. Yes, exactly that. They're a stand for you. They're a stand for a version of you that doesn't exist. Right, well done, guys. I was so aware of the time because I just like I wanted to get everything in and we did it. Yay! All right, so listen, moving forward, I just want to say this stuff briefly. We've got 17 sessions to go. We're going to finish this year's sessions on the 2nd of December. Then on the 30th of December, we're going to start our 3-month challenge. And that could be, so that's basically you guys choosing any project or whatever that you want to take on. That could be a goal in your creative life, a specific project, like, you know, there's something that you want to write or create in that 3-month period. It might, now that we've had this mentoring conversation, be to do with supporting other people, doing something that's, you know, supports or mentors other people. Or it could be a goal that is around being. So some of you guys are very good, very effective at doing. So it might actually be of benefit to you to take this 3-month challenge as a challenge of being rather than doing. So for example, a moving meditation that you commit to every day, or a meditation on what is your why or what is your contribution to the world, and you do that for 3 months. So for example, for me, mine is definitely an issue of being. I'm going to take on a meditation challenge to do 20 minutes of meditation every day for 3 months. I don't know how it's going to go down. So yeah, so we'll talk about, I'll just keep bringing this up every time, but we're going to start those on the 30th of December. And then also, I just wanted to thank, there's been some people sharing these live chats with their friends and other people that they know on Instagram. So I just wanted to say, really, thank you so much. And if you feel moved to, please, you know, share this with other people. I am going to stop them after the 17 more sessions. That will mean there's 50 in total. So that's going to probably be around like March time. So if you feel like you want to share them with other people, please do. If there's old ones that you want to check out, they're on my YouTube channel and they cover like so many subjects. If I've missed one, if there's one that you're like, oh, I'd love to see one on blah blah blah, and it's not there, just DM me and I will do it on that subject for you. Listen, thank you guys. I'm getting the countdown now, so I'm going to sign off. It's been so lovely. Have a good week. See ya.